This podcast, including all discussions and examples, is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any government agency or company. Today, we're sitting down with Chip Crotty, founder of Cocoon, to dive into the company's origin and explore how their innovative structures and textiles are redefining readiness and corrosion prevention around the globe. This is From the Dive Shop.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to From the Dive Shop. I'm Patrick Ship, and with me today, and listen, I'm very excited, Chip Crotty from Cocoon. Welcome aboard, Chip. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Patrick. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, man. It's great that you're here. Very happy to have you here. I want to just jump right into it.
Sure.
So, Chip, you've been working with ADS now for about 10 or 12 years?
About 12 years.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about Cocoon?
Sure. We're an unusual company. Our specialty is corrosion prevention that improves military readiness.
Okay.
So we started way back in the 70s when I was a younger guy.
Younger guy. All right. Tell us a little bit about how you got that started. We've talked a little bit about it, and it sounds like something, a little family business, but also some stuff you did in college.
Sure. So I was going to a state college, a terrible college student, just to let you know. And I'm one of 7 kids. In 11 years, we had a dad that was a captain in the Navy and drove ships.
Okay.
And when he retired out, he worked for a company called Cargo Care that took care of cargo on ship, protecting from sweat damage. Back then, corroding Campbell soup and labels coming off the soup.
Really? That's a problem.
That was a problem.
And who'd have thunk?
Who would have thunk? And so in college, he was really a salesperson. He would sell his humidity-controlled equipment into the military to mothball ships. And his company didn't want to install it, so we ended up installing it when we were college kids. And that got us going.
Excellent. And when you say mothballing ship, what's that mean?
So when you put ships in storage and you want to pull them out of storage and have them operational, so you do certain things to the ships to prevent corrosion inside the ship. And so you have, in the U.S. military, you have ready reserve ships, you have mothball ships, you've got ships stored around the world with equipment on it, ready to go to action.
Okay, all right. Yeah, when I think about mothballing, I think about grandma's closet. And that smell. Oh, goodness.
Not quite.
Well, good. And so you got started doing that. And how did you transition to what you're doing today? You know, it seems like the mothballing ships back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Late 70s.
Yeah. And then as you know, as the company began to grow, what are some things that brought you from ships to shore?
Well, so really what got the business going was that the U.S. military back then deflagged ships. So when you flag a ship, it meant that the U.S. military was financing those ships, and those ships could be commercial ships or merchant marine ships, but if there was an activity or war activity, those ships were now made available to the U.S. military. They would take them over, and they would transport equipment. For some reason back then, they deflagged them, which meant that foreign flags could come, or they could be foreign-owned ships. So all the U.S. ships had to go into mothball. And so that got us really busy to begin with. And so we were a project-driven company. We would go from ship to ship to ship as young kids and mothballing them. And as we became more successful at that, more opportunities came our way. So one of the things that happen when you do military Sea Lift Command preposition ships afloat, those ships go to the Mediterranean or the Indian Ocean, and are active ships and hang out, but they carry military supplies like hospital supplies or equipment or munitions. So those ships go to sea for 5 years, and we take care of them. And things were going very well for us in that part of our business. And part of that was building fabric structures on ships to cover the deck equipment. So when 9/11 hit, there was a lot of fabric structures ashore supporting military, LAMs, large area maintenance shelters. And they were failing quite a bit in Afghanistan and Iraq. And Forces Command, Army Forces Command came to us and said, how can you do these things on a ship? Can you do it ashore? So that brought us ashore, and we started looking at how to build airplane hangars for them. And we had real success with that. And so that brought us ashore and doing corrosion-free storage ashore, like we were doing on ship. So we'd put up these large structures and humidity control them. And we had lots of success with that. And that led us into developing a new textile. So if you couldn't put things inside the shelter to protect it, then it was outdoors. So the Office of Secretary of Defense Army Corrosion Office funded a program to determine what a protective textile should be covering equipment that was sitting outside. And we joined that. That was a 5-year program. We had no textile to start with. We teamed with GE Energy and developed a new textile to protect equipment sitting outside and have real success with that. And then that material worked itself into aviation installation systems for Chinook helicopter and now the C-130 to prevent corrosion on those aircraft. So we went from mothballing ships to coming ashore to building airplane hangars to developing a textile to developing an aviation installation system. And now each one of those verticals is sort of taking its life.
See, man, you really diversified.
We diversified in corrosion prevention. So it doesn't sound like it's all corrosion prevention, but we put up very big hangars now that are built to building code. And the last hangar is 250 by 250 foot, all steel and fabric, built to building code.
And that's meeting like the UFC requirements that the Navy has and
United Facility Codes, yeah.
Yep.
So like a building like we're sitting in today, this is a brick and mortar building we're sitting in, that has to be built to hurricane loads and rain loads and seismic loads. Well, these fabric structures are the same. So we've done now 9 hangars or facilities for Edwards Air Force Base.
What kind of planes they got in there?
So we're not storing anything there. We're actually putting aircraft in them.
Okay.
And there's we don't quite know what's going on the inside of these things. So it's
no one does. No one does
yeah.
except the conspiracy theorists out there on Instagram. Yeah.
So we know that the first 2 we did were for B-52s.
Okay.
Once we put them up, we can't get back in. We can service them, but so we're in a pretty secure area. What made that quite unusual is that they can be relocated. So those structures now are considered equipment, which means that the military can buy them with other than military construction dollars or MILCON dollars.
And out there at Edwards, it's a high desert. It's a desert environment, right? Is that a high UV load that's hitting those versus a chance at a hurricane?
So challenges at Edwards are it's the highest seismic load in the country.
Okay.
Wind loads and UV degradation.
Okay.
So we have to build for all of that.
Oh, wow. And then, so the same thing, I think you've also done some structures here on the East Coast as well?
We've done structures all over the country and overseas.
Oh, really? What overseas? What type of work there?
Again, through ADS, we did a couple things. We did 5 structures in Niger, Africa.
Okay.
Which was pretty interesting. It was the largest construction that the Air Force has done. So they built it with one of our guys on site to support them. And then we did 11 structures in Afghanistan to support the activities over there. And now we've done them in Germany and looking at Poland and looking at Ukraine right now and certain things. And I'm working on things in Hawaii right now for the national.
Now, Hawaii, there's a nice place to go do some work, right?
Yeah.
Like, nice weather, not Afghanistan. A
Yeah.
little chilly in the winter.
So how
hot
that
in the
fits,
summer?
So how that fits corrosion is that we're protecting things that are going in the hangar, but the hangar itself can't corrode, which is really very interesting. And we've been working with the Admiral set, and I'm very fortunate. I get to brief in the Pentagon often enough. Probably in the last year, I've been there 8 times, last 18 months, looking at different ways to help with readiness. So when you work in the Pentagon, these guys have big problems, right? So they want to hear big solutions.
Big problems. You've been in the Pentagon, man. Get lost in there.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
So if you go to the Pentagon and say, I can save you $10 million, they're really not interested in talking to you. You really need to be in the high numbers, in the high problem-solving issues. So we solve big problems. And we look at our company philosophy is, can we change the game with our product designs? So how do we change the game?
And we think about changing the game in the future, then, you've talked a lot about the shelters that are fabric-based. Mm-hmm. But, one of the things we're seeing in Ukraine, we saw it also with Iran and Israel, is the use of drones. And not just drones for long-range attacks, but short-range attacks, small drones carrying munitions, larger drones acting as distractions. It's giving an incredible amount of reach to an adversary. both offensive and defensively, right? What are some things you're looking at when you say like, okay, well, we're doing these maintenance shelters, we're doing hangars, even just some of the corrosion prevention equipment that you're operating? How is that new sort of battle space impacting your designs?
Well, it's a big government focus right now on how to solve these problems. They don't have enough money to build traditional brick and mortar, and they don't have enough military construction dollars, MILCON dollars. So we've gotten a lot of attention from very senior leadership and wondering how we were so successful in Edwards Air Force Base and some of the other things that we're doing. So we've been working with the Admiral set and in the Navy, and they've just come out this last 3 months or so with a new directive saying that they are challenging the Navy to use alternative construction methods, ACM.
Don't tell the Seabees.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that. NAVFAC.
And we're working with the Seabees and we're working with the Air Force. So every branch now is working to figure out how to do this.
Okay.
And so that now means that we're not just doing strictly fabric. We now do all steel. We do steel and fabric. We can do block and fabric. We can do tilt-up cement and fabric. The last two hangars that we've done were 220 by 220, and they were full-up skiffs.
Wow.
And all of those are considered relocatable, which means you're using non-traditional or other money than MILCON. And we have been on the Hill and briefed the MILCON committee and the Readiness committee. So it is a big, big issue. And you were talking about drones. So the Ukraine thing has really changed the game, as we all know. And so we are looking at how do you build non-traditional hangars, ACM, to meet the goals of the Admiral set, which is their mission set is, can they build 4 hangars for the price of 1 that they used to be paying for? Can you build...
It's a budget. It's a budgety move there.
It's a budgety move there. And can you build at the operational time frame that they need? And can you build just for the length they need it? We're overbuilding for too long. So we have buildings that are aged out. And then can you build for the future without knowing what the future is? Can you modify? So those have been our conversations at the senior level. The drone issue has now asked the question, can you give X protection from drones? And we don't quite know what that looks like right yet. So you have a near-term, mid-term, long-term. So we know, and we've been explained too, that the near term is that the drones can carry limited payloads. But in the near future, they're taking on more and more. So how can you protect from that? So we're now just kicking around ideas for that.
You know, one thing you mentioned in there was the construction timeline, or shouldn't call it construction, right? But the timeline
it's
for
assembly or erection time, yeah.
Yeah, getting
so it's not.
assembled.
That's what we save is that all this is pre-engineered and pre-manufactured off-site. So when you arrive on site, your site time is cut down to months versus years.
Okay. And is there a lot of site prep that needs to get done prior to arrival, or is that the sort of thing that, hey, if you can just give me a flat spot? You know, I think we've been on a couple meetings. I think we were up at Belvoir one time, and a guy was showing us a parking lot, and you're like, look, it's level. I can put anything right here. I mean, is that sort of where you're at with these as well?
It depends on the size of the structure. So if you're a smaller structure, say 100-foot wide, you can put something like that on I-beams, and you can work on irregular ground.
Okay.
If you're getting larger, you need footings so that you can deal with extreme weather. So like when you build in Okinawa, you build for typhoons. That's 212-mile wind loads. And we're looking right now, Kwajalein Atoll, if you know where Kwaj is.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So Kwajalein's the Marshall Islands. It is a crazy, crazy place. I've had the fortune to go there. But it's like 4 feet off the water. I don't know how it survives.
Right.
But for some reason, they seem protected from typhoons and earthquakes, but things corrode right in front of you. So how do you design things that won't corrode?
Yeah.
Right? And then you still need concrete and you still need footings out there depending what you're doing. And we're looking at, with you guys, we're looking at 3 hangars in the Philippines. We're looking at things in Guam, protecting missile launch sites and how to protect from sky eyes and local eyes and earthquakes and typhoons and corrosion. So we take on those crazy things.
And as you're doing those in those assemblies, one thing is when you look at a brick and mortar construction, a lot of those people out there doing the work, they're contractors, they're coming in, they're masons, they're electricians, they're a lot of different things, and it's a big contracted operation. with yours, do you see a way forward where, Cocoon's sending out 1 or 2 SMEs and they're like, hey, bring your lifts, boys. We're going to get this thing set up. And the, CBs or the engineers on site, already the green suiters are able to do these locally?
Yeah. So it's oftentimes they want to do a job creator, depending where you are.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if you're in the Philippines, they want to create jobs locally.
Oh, okay. So use the host nation.
So we'll
support.
bring in a couple SMEs and help them with their construction teams and construct it. Other times we just do 100% what's going on. Sometimes the CBs and the Corps of Engineers or Red Horse will want to construct these things for training.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So
man, that's a long way, Chip. That's a long way from mothballing ships during summer break.
yeah, it was kind of a cool adventure. We were lucky that we had a father that was open to craziness.
Yeah.
So he was out of 7 kids, by the way, he never raised his voice once.
Really?
Yeah, he was this really
Are you sure?
low-key guy.
Were you there all the time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I promise you. I had a mother that was an opera singer. She raised her voice all of the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was really interesting working on ships and prepositioned ships. So they're on a schedule, and they're going to leave port no matter what.
No matter what. That's right.
So we learned early on in our 19, 20 years old when we first started doing these things that the dirtiest guy on the ship was the port engineer, and he's the most important guy on the ship.
Okay.
So as young guys, we had to go find him or her and bring her to the gangway and have us invite us on board and shake his hand or her hand. And when we left, we would shake their hand. So it was really funny. So we knew that we had to connect with that person. And then we knew that we couldn't miss a deadline. So one of the things that we learned was if we had any problem whatsoever, we would go get that port engineer and say, we think we have a problem. Because we couldn't miss a deadline and we needed their help to solve the problem. And we missed some deadlines because the ship was going to be received in like Singapore. So we met the takeoff date, but we stayed on the ship and we did the work going to Singapore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So why that's a relevant story is that we became really good project managers. So we've never had a failure.
Okay. Well, I mean, and I think that's a critical part of any of these large scale projects, particularly when you're doing it for the government and DoD, is they're looking for those things. They want to be on time, on target, on as much as they can. And, you hear about it all the time in the news, cost overruns, things not working out. Yeah. And when you can do it, as a businessman and getting it done, even as a young man and now throughout your career, how many years would you say you've done this without missing a deadline?
Oh, we've never missed a deadline.
Never missed a deadline.
No, we've never missed a deadline.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Not a lot of companies, not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah.
I know I missed a few deadlines. So.
If a schedule changed, it was collaboration with the customer because they might have changes, but we've really never missed a deadline. Kind of interesting, isn't it?
That is. That's great. I mean, I'm just thinking of something witty to say, but I'm like, I should just sit here in awe.
We didn't as young people, we didn't know better. That's how we were brought up. And was like, and it truly was, the ship's leaving. So it's not like you could do anything else. You're like, we need to get this done. But we were college kids. We thought it was fun. And
I slept through a lot of 8 o'clock classes.
Oh, we piled like 6 guys in one hotel room. And, we thought the idea was to work to party when we first started, right?
Yeah, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
But in the reality, we had a really cool father that taught us a lot and kept us on track.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So I want to shift it a little bit, talk about the Cocoon ADS relationship. We were talking a little earlier before we started, and I was thinking about the first time I think I was introduced to Cocoon was at one of our December sales trainings. And, we invite all these suppliers in and they're going to do round robins where you kind of sit with them for 5 or 10 minutes and talk about products that are coming out in the next year. And everybody had a 6-foot table and they had a few things sitting on the table. And then back in the far corner of this big ballroom is Cocoon. And there's Cocoon and Chip's got, just like he's got everything. But behind him are just stacked high these boxes about the size of shoe boxes that all say Cocoon. And you go up there and Chip and his team, they're giving you all the good information about the product. And they're like, here. And you open the box and it was like homemade shortbread cookies. It was a shortbread cookie kit. And I was just like,
making cookie kit.
What? This is crazy.
Yeah.
That last guy gave me a pencil. And, I took that home and I was like, telling my wife, and my daughter was there. She's like, what's that? I was like, look, babe, we got to make some shortbread cookies. And we did, and they were delicious. But, I remember that, obviously, but that really sort of set Cocoon apart from your peers in the supplier base that we work with. And could you talk a little bit about how that started, but also, what is that ADS relationship like, and how are you finding the value working with us?
Well, it's good that you remember that, right? So
not a lot I remember. People tell you, I forget stuff all the time, but that was a core memory now.
Yeah. But really what that's all about is relationships. Is how do you build relationships, right? So you went home and did something with your family and your kids. That's a relationship.
Sure did.
And Cocoon helped make that happen. So you remember those things, right? So we're a relationship-driven company. With our customers, we're unique that we get to know our customer set really well. And oftentimes, every time, if we're successful, they're collaborating with us and we're collaborating with them. So we're solving problems together, we're moving things along together. We take the adversarial relationship out of big companies that, if you want to plus up, you need to work with us. We make all those things go away. We hardly ever have a plus up on a contract. So it took us a while to understand how to work with ADS. So we had a sales manager at one point when we first started, and we were what you would have called your whiny vendor. Okay. So we would go over.
We never say that about vendors.
Well, a supplier, but not understanding who you were. It's like, go do this, go do this, go do this. How come this is not getting done?
Right.
And as we stepped back and got involved again, I started understanding what the relationship was all about. And it's a collaboration, right? And you, as ADS, work with many, many suppliers. So what makes us stand out? What makes us someone that you want to work with? What makes us connect with your customers that become our customers? So we spend a lot of time understanding that. And to make that happen, we need to understand you guys individually. And so that's really where our marketing comes from and our communication comes from, and our joy of working with ADS. We really enjoy working with ADS.
Well, we enjoy working with you, Chip. I know we invited Julianne and Summer to stick around, but they had other things they had to get taken care of. Probably for Cocoon. I think Kevin's out there working. They're probably going to go.
So one of the things, though, that we're pretty upfront with is if we work really hard with you guys, we're really transparent. You're really transparent with us. We trust each other, which means that each of us have earned the right to make a mistake, and we've earned the right to solve that together. So if we have mistakes or we have challenges, we put them on the table right away, and we collectively, let's figure this out. We've earned that right. That's a trust.
Excellent. Are there some projects that you could highlight that are absolute collaborations with ADS where just, it's like ADS couldn't have done it without Cocoon, and Cocoon probably couldn't have done it without ADS, some stuff like that?
There's a couple. So the fabric structures that we bring to the government, we're the first organizations that have done that. So the government has used large area maintenance shelters, LAMs, or clamshells for a long time. But they haven't used building code compliant large fabric structures or now blended structures. So our first structure that we got through ADS was for 160 Special Forces. And that was a year long trying to figure out how the contract was going to work and would DLA take it. So that was really very good. And then Edwards came our way. And Edwards had a big project, but they didn't have Milcon dollars. And they needed something urgently, and they couldn't figure it out, and they didn't have Milcon dollars. So they connected with us, and we were able to design the structures that they wanted, and the contract path wasn't clear. And that's where ADS came to the table. And so we went out and we met our point of contact out there, and he basically said, either you're going to make me program manager of the year or you're going to get me fired, but I need to solve this problem. And so ADS and Cocoon sat down and explained how this would work through your contract process. And their 4-star or 3-star out there gave it a go and said, let's risk it. And it worked out brilliantly well. And so we worked together a lot on that.
Excellent. That's great. And I think coming from ADS, and that's what we like to hear too, right? We're real interested in the collaboration piece. Mm-hmm. with our suppliers. It's important that we're...
Well, and I would say the customer.
Well,
so that was
yeah.
a whole, that we collaborated really well, all three of us, all three entities.
Yeah.
And by the way, I started out saying it was $108 million, I think they had. They had two structures up for $28 million.
Finding the solution for the customer, that's paramount. That's the number. That's what we're going for every single time. So that's great. I just had a couple more things. We had discussed a little bit about how do you create space to enhance performance a little bit on Friday, and you were talking about both just the spaces that you're already creating, but as you look to the future, some things that you'll be able to do. What are some of the things that you're thinking about in the future as well?
Well, we have, so I'm the ideas guy of the organization.
Okay. All right, so we get a little peek behind the curtain here.
Yeah, and I happen to be the principal of the company and the chairman of the board of the company, which kind of overwhelms the family. So, and we're a family business.
Oh.
I have 4 family members that work in this.
What do they do?
So my brother-in-law is operations.
Okay.
And so he is an extremely talented, detailed engineer. I have a sister who is really a mad scientist, and so she runs the textile part of it. And I have an older brother, a year older than I am, and he retired out at 54 as a very young guy, and comes and goes as he likes, but he's the strategic guy in our organization, and he helps put new products together.
Okay.
And then I have a younger brother that is a mad networker. He's ADHD off the charts, but if he walked into any space, he's going to know every single person there.
Okay, great.
So
Good guy to know.
Yeah. So why was I telling you all that? I forgot. What was your question?
We were talking a little bit about enhancing performance. So creating space to enhance performance.
So I was just sharing that with you because all of that, I'm really grateful that I have all that around me because I am the ideas guy of the organization, which means I get to say I do things even when everyone else says don't do them because I believe in them so much. So we have lots of opportunity as a company that looks at corrosion prevention and readiness. But each one of our verticals has opportunities. So we were talking about structures, now alternative construction methods, so a breadth of type of structures. That's not even scratching the surface of what the military is doing. And so we're looking at new ways to do things for them. So there's real opportunity there. Our textile protecting equipment is only finally really taking off. And we look very promising in every branch that we're doing on to protecting equipment from the environment that's sitting outside. And finally, that's making a lot of sense to the military. That textile has worked itself into the Chinook helicopter, so now we are on all future helicopters. So we competed for that and won that. And we're doing the same thing for the C-130, and now other aircraft are knocking on the door for those things.
And is that the noise dampening, or is that the protective cover?
It's acoustic insulation. Okay. So in a Chinook helicopter, they call it a blanket. It's a fabric. If those that have seen the inside of a Chinook, it's a quilted gray material. That is not air permeable, and our textile is air permeable. So it traps in heat and moisture against the airframe and causes corrosion. And that means it limits its flight hours. Okay. So it's a readiness issue. It also absorbs moisture. So the way we went about it, we're literally saving about 140 to 160 pounds per Chinook in what we're doing. Yep. So that's a big deal. We are now doing the same for the C-130, and we're being asked to look at other things. So that has real depth. The textile real has depth. And then what we call corrosion-free environments, controlling humidity to protect corrosion inside a space. So we can put up new space. With ADS, we just did a 200 by 500 foot long building in Marine Forces Storage Command for pre-position, humidity controlled. We're now looking at doing that at some 300 sites for the National Guard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we're looking at doing some of that for earth-covered magazines for the military, 22,000 sites. So we have real opportunity in all these different places.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know there's all those armories all over the country with all their vehicles sitting outside, getting maintained once a month for PMCS and maybe driven around a little bit, and especially if they have aircraft. Goodness.
Yeah, so corrosion to the military is a $20 billion annual problem, or 1.5 I forget, million non-addressable days in a year or something. The inactivity equipment is crazy. So the things that we focus on is how to reduce that corrosion problem to improve readiness and life cycle extension. And we're being successful in our corner doing that.
Hey, Chip, I really want to thank you for being here today, taking the time to come and sit with us and talk about Cocoon, your experience with ADS, and all the great work you're doing all over the world.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, listen, this has been another episode of From the Dive Shop. We'll see you next time.